Hey guys, welcome to another WP Decoded for August 31st, Labor Day weekend here.
Yes.
Got Nate here with me, talking some paradigm stuff with WordCamp, and we've also got Steve on with us again. Happy to have you back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. So you guys want to introduce yourselves really quick, and we'll get going?
Nate, you want to start?
Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. I got a cold, so I'm actually getting over it, if you can believe it. My name is Nathan Driver. I am a digital media strategist / web developer here in Dayton, Ohio, if you can believe it. Working at an advertising agency, and I love WordPress. I love WordCamp. Is that good?
Yeah, it works.
Is that for the promo? Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. My name is Steve Grunwell. I'm a developer at a company called Buckeye Interactive in New Albany, Ohio, if you can believe it. And I've been working with WordPress for several years now. And I also love WordCamp. So where's the opposing view of someone who's like, I hate WordCamp?
I'm going to play the devil's advocate.
Oh boy. Well, I look forward to that.
And I'm Brian.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I'm Brian Redder, bringing it back to the better city of the two that are here on WP Decoded this week.
Wrong cough, but go on.
Developer here of WordCamps, or WordPress, host and organizer of WordCamp in Dayton. Man, I cannot talk today. Sorry, guys. And yeah, I too am a lover of WordCamps and WordPress.
Oh, whenever anyone says that, you should hold like a box of kittens and just go, I love WordCamps.
So.
All right, well, playing devil's advocate, like I said I would. Everybody here, we've been to some WordCamps. We've even spoken at some WordCamps. Now, I want to get everybody's impression of the WordCamps that aren't officially labeled WordCamps. On the West Coast, on the East Coast, those $600 ones for like a whole week centered around the business model of WordPress. I'd love to get your guys' views on that. If you know what I'm talking about. No? Yeah.
I do. Steve, do you have any thoughts on it?
Are we talking strictly ones that are focused on running your business on WordPress but aren't WordCamps, or are we talking general PHP conferences like PHP World coming up, for instance, in November?
This is strictly WordPress, the Beach
strictly
Press,
WordPress. Okay.
Indie Press, the WP Cruise, Pressnomics.
Well, I think that the fact that the platform is large enough that you have people going, no, seriously, this is great, and we want to be able to run conferences around it and be able to make money off of it. I mean, WordCamps, they're, speakers aren't being paid. They tend to be rather locally focused, so I don't think it's a bad thing to have these things out there that are, still people talking about how to use WordPress, but maybe they want to be able to break free of some of the restrictions that could be put on them by WordCamp Central. I think there's definitely a place for it, and you want to make sure that they're not being presented to people like, hi, this is, it's basically WordCamp. It needs to be its own thing. Just
Right.
like with everything WordPress, I mean, you can't call it, this isn't WordPress Decoded, it's WP Decoded, because WordPress is a copyrighted name, and you can't risk, like, messing up that brand by, letting anyone use it in any sort of variation they want to. But WP indicating, like, no, this is about WordPress. I don't see a problem with having the other conferences out there, especially if it gives an opportunity for more people to get involved with the platform.
What about you, Brian?
It's been a debate amongst myself on this one. I'm all about letting people go out and do kind of their own thing, their own conferences and stuff like that. They might see a different way of doing it. But really, the WordPress Foundation, the WordCamp Foundation, they have they have such a well laid out plan of what WordCamps are, and it helps keep the overall feel of a WordCamp a WordCamp. And I mean, I enjoy being able to go to a conference for 20, 40 bucks, and not really have that big of a deal paying that out. But the nice thing about it is people can afford to do that because the foundation. So my question is, why leave the foundation's umbrella, who's willing to help you set up these WordCamps and do these WordCamps on your own, and allow multiple people the chance to come out and get so much value out of these for such a little amount?
I think that's great. That raises a good point, and Steve kind of pointed that out too, where the focus with WordCamps, it's local based, but at the same time, you want to get in those big names to come in, be that keynote speaker, and sometimes getting those big names, they're costing them money, air travel, time from work and family on the weekend. So it's one of those things, that restriction that the Central, and again, playing devil's advocate, the restrictions that Central kind of holds on a WordCamp says, no, you can't give them a ticket to come in to speak and hotel stay. They're doing it out of their free will. And I think this is where a lot of the debate is coming up. And then I would go even a step further and say, what is classified as local? Is it just your metropolitan area, or is it your state, your surrounding states? I mean, what do you guys think?
There isn't necessarily a restriction that it has to be local. I was, when I brought up local earlier, it's more, like when I was at Grand Rapids a few weeks ago, you had a lot of people coming in from Ann Arbor, a few people who had been to, like Kyle, who organizes Ann Arbor, he was at Grand Rapids, but then he was also at North Canton back in the spring, and so I think people definitely like to travel, and Mara was in Columbus, all the way from Phoenix. So you get the people who go like, yeah, I'm just, I want to hit one of the bigger WordCamps, or even, like Columbus wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either. So it's, with the local focus, I don't think it's so much an issue of, well, are we only going to be able to get people from this particular region?
Right.
I think there are definitely people who are willing to travel, and especially with the larger WordCamps, those tend to have that larger draw. How many people traveled hours and hours to hit Chicago this year? But Brian, I wanted to touch on when you were saying, why would people leave the WordCamp umbrella? That's strongly implying that people are doing these conferences instead of going to a WordCamp, or instead of organizing, or working with a WordCamp. But isn't there plenty of room for people to say, yeah, we're going to do WordCamp, and then 4 months later, do a totally different non-WordCamp related thing? These WordCamps are per city once a year, but I think there's always a large number of speakers and people interested in the topic, that to limit it to 1 year or once a year per metropolitan area seems a little restrictive.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with what I was going to bring up too. Is the most recent ones I've heard about, yeah, they're saying they're going away from the WordCamp foundation and doing their own thing, doing these $200 to $300 conferences. But my thought is, why not do both? Why do you need to completely go away from the WordCamp? Is it WordPress saying if you're going to go do your own, you can't do a WordCamp anymore, or is it the organizers deciding, hey, we want to bring in these speakers from out of town, the WordPress Foundation, the WordCamp organization, they prefer local presenters and things. It's clearly stated on the website. But is it right for these organizers to just kind of fully go away? Because that's what they seem to be doing. I think it'd be great to do these local WordCamps of all local people, and then maybe later on do these another event in the year, do a full, expensive conference type thing.
Right.
Isn't that San Francisco? No.
Yeah. East one on the East Coast too, right?
Yeah. No. I don't know. Excuse me. But and Steve, to your point, I think there is room for both. But at the same time, granted, Brian and I have only organized one WordCamp so far, and it was a lot of work. It is tiring. If I'm doing, one WordCamp, in say March, and then another one in August or September, I'm going to be burned out the whole year.
Well, would you be organizing both of them, or would it be, there are only so many people organizing, say, a local WordCamp, and then maybe there's a commercial company that, they have a vested interest in starting a WordPress-related conference. Maybe it's to draw more attention to their business or their business partners, or it could be, for instance, an incubator, kind of saying like, well, we have several development companies within our thing. So if we do this, and we're really talking about WordPress development, and it's great, you should run your business on it.
Right.
It could definitely be a sales thing, and that's the kind of thing that WordCamp Central would probably frown on, kind of like, no, it's about empowering the people and getting people genuinely interested, not making it a big sales pitch. But yes, I can see how it would be totally exhausting if someone decided, I'm going to run the commercial conference as well as doing WordCamp. So I can definitely see your point there, where if people given the option between doing kind of the altruistic, I'm going to organize a WordCamp for the people so they can get together and they can learn and they can really become part of this community, versus I'm going to do this thing where maybe I can make a lot of money off of it. There would definitely be some conflicts there, but I'd also worry that anyone who was originally organizing a WordCamp and then goes like, whoa, if I can make money instead, maybe those aren't the greatest people to be organizing the WordCamps, because it sounds like they're letting other interests kind of drive that. Not saying those people shouldn't be, like, we should be kissing the ground they walk on.
Right.
We've seen, and you guys have experienced, what people can go through in putting one of these together. It can be a huge drain on resources, and the organizers of WordCamps everywhere, like, thank you, because it's a great thing for the community, and great for getting people used to working with WordPress, and really, it's just a very cool thing. So I understand the attraction of money and getting compensated outside of some guy on a podcast going like, hey, thanks for putting this together. But at the same time, like, the warm fuzzies, you gotta,
right,
those have value whether you can buy Chipotle with them or not.
So what do you say, Brian? Do you think it's those that are doing it out of the umbrella are doing it for selfish needs or something else?
It's hard to say. I think, I don't necessarily, from what I've seen, they're doing it for selfish needs. I think they're doing it because they see opportunity outside of the umbrella for the event. But in my opinion, it's still, if you had a WordCamp sponsored event, and then you got rid of that to do these outside the umbrella, we'll say, events, you're losing people, because people that are just starting WordPress being open source, it's typically people that don't either want to spend a whole lot of money or don't have a lot of money to spend. They're not going to go to this conference because it's $3, $4, even $1,000 to go to, where the WordCamp they can afford to go to for the day. So if you're doing it just to make money for your company and then you ditch the WordCamp umbrella, I think that's wrong. You need to have that as well.
The thing that I'm seeing more is the reason, the underlying factor is that they can bring in these outside their metropolitan area, outside that 70-30 local. And, you know, they want to bring in the Corey Millers, the Chris Lima. They want to bring all the great people that have done great things with WordPress, or maybe their companies utilize it, or maybe they want to have them talk about just how to run a successful company, just like Corey Miller did with us at WordCamp in Dayton. So it's one of those things. I think there's that factor that really kind of underlines it, where it's just going, you know what, we want to have great dynamic speakers. I'm not taking anything away from, you know, localish speakers, but, you know, you get those big names, all of a sudden that $200, $300, $400 ticket price, all of a sudden, you know, in my eyes starts going, wow, you know, it really might be worth it if I'm really going to get something out of it.
That's true.
Not being especially familiar with some of these conferences, do they tend to focus more on individual user, or is it more this is how to use WordPress for your business? Because I think the price tag definitely plays a factor there, where you're trying to pitch like, oh, this is how we moved our, you know, large company that does millions of dollars of revenue a year onto, you know, WordPress for all of our marketing or anything like that. That's a much different thing of saying, you know, oh yeah, it's going to be several $100s, whereas, you know, if it's like, hey, this is how to get started with a blog, you're going to pay more for this than you will, you know, your first several years of hosting,
Right.
running on, you know, any of the shared hosts.
And
So,
I think it's not geared towards that beginning user. And I want to touch on that just quickly, only because I know there's another topic to this. But it goes beyond that. The power user, the freelancer, the manager that even in the advertising agency that utilizes WordPress and using it to kind of drive more business, but yet open up their doors with a community as well. So yeah, that's my thought.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
So the whole bringing in someone from, you know, a bigger name of WordPress into your WordCamp, if you wanted to keep doing it in WordCamp, is it, you know, we got at Dayton's Corey Miller that came in and did our keynote for us. He came on his own dime. He came. He even brought one of his employees with him, and came and talked. Spent the whole day with us. Chatted with everyone there. But if you have this name that you want to come in and they can't afford it, could you get a sponsorship from a local business?
Oh. And it's funny you actually mentioned that, because I was kind of tweeting that. I think it was Thursday or earlier this week. Was, you know, how is there a way around this? You know, what's everybody's take on this? And Jeff Chandler from WP Tavern and Chris Ling was kind of jumped in it, and Chris kind of goes, well, you know what? You could get your company come in, fly me in to, you know, evaluate your company. I can give you, you know, all these updates, all these things, keys, and then what I do on my weekend is whatever I want to do. So it was like hashtag loophole alert. So, I mean, I think it kind of goes along with that, where I think that is a possibility. Is it a wrong? I don't know. I think it's that gray area.
Yeah.
And I think that one needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of WordCamps, we've all organized, been a part of, spoken, like I mentioned before, and there's always those three tracks: the beginner, that power user, and then the developer. What is your guys' take on that? I wrote a blog real quick. It was actually from Brian's drawing that he did up in North Canton, basically kind of demonstrating that I might be a developer in PHP, but I might not know anything about WordPress. So guess what? Now I'm in that how to install WordPress 101. And I think we're losing some of this conception of where to place attendees or even speakers for that matter.
Well, I think like all things in WordPress and WordCamps, the tracks are suggestions. So just because I'm sitting there hacking on code every day, all day, probably too much. I've gone to WordCamps and gone, oh, that marketing track thing sounds really cool, or stepped into a power user thing where it's like, oh, I don't do much with that particular technology based on the clients I'm working with. But it sounds like it would be a good skill to pick up. Or maybe the development one is like, introduction to writing plugins. I've written way more plugins than I probably should. Most of them, for a single client. But, the introductory, well, this is kind of how a plugin is constructed. Like, that's definitely developer track stuff, but the more you've been around it, the less you feel like you're going to get out of it, so you kind of have to look for those alternative marketing things. But as far as are the tracks a good thing or a bad thing, I would lean on they're a good suggestion, especially when people are kind of getting into things and they're like, I just want to dive headfirst into WordPress. I haven't done this. I set up, did it maybe a one-click install or something, and I'm just looking for a good place to get started. You might see a developer track on, plugin development, and you're like, well, I know that I need plugins, but is that where I want to be? And then, you might have the beginner's like, well, installing WordPress. So it works as a nice guideline of like, okay, based on where you think you are, like maybe that person would be better in a power user track because, they might be talking about, let's say, understanding WordPress roles and capabilities, and then it's going, oh, so that's the difference between an author and an editor. So it's partly where people see themselves, but they need to be guided, but not forced into a particular. Like, I'm really glad it's not one of those sessions where a developer thing ends and then the next one starts right away, and people don't have time to get up and move, or developer ticket pricing or something, and it's like, oh no, you can't go to the developer session. It's one price gets you in, and then or free if you're a volunteer. Which, by the way, everyone volunteer.
Yes, please. Sorry, go ahead.
So the fact that people are able to, as Angie Meeker puts it, vote with your feet. You go into a session, and if you go, this is way over my head, you go find something else. But by having those concurrent sessions, and I feel like Columbus had 4 tracks at one point. There was like the marketing, I think it was back in 2012, it was marketing, development, beginner, and power user.
Yeah.
So it's like, the marketing track would have something like, SEO, where that wouldn't really be a developer thing. No offense to you at all there, Nate. Because I saw your developer talking to Columbus this year, and it was very good. Or it was developer track, but on SEO.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think they work as good guidelines, but people need to be reminded that just because you pick a track at the beginning of the morning, that's not where you have to stay. And they provide a good chance for people to get exposed to a lot of different areas of WordPress.
Yeah, that's kind of the main point of what I was talking about with this drawing. Is we had a lot of people in Dayton, and I had people come up to me in Columbus and North Canton saying, I'm a beginner user of WordPress, but none of the sessions in the beginner track are really for me, because I'm over that, and they didn't understand that just because they're a beginner of WordPress doesn't mean they can't go to like the intermediate track. So one of my thoughts was with the whole thing, and in this drawing that we're talking about, you can find on Nathan's website, just nathandriver.com.
Oh, thanks for the plug. I'll bring it up so you guys can see it. You guys see it now?
Yeah, let me pick on that one. So this is the drawing that I came up with at North Canton, and Nathan and I were talking with a couple of other people. I believe Kyle was in that
Yeah.
conversation. But essentially, what it is I might be a beginning developer, but the stuff in the developer track doesn't necessarily fit me because I'm not quite there yet. So I might fall into that power user. So going a step farther from this drawing, after I had time to think about it, kind of get into it a little bit more, I was thinking more getting rid of developer, power user, beginner, and go with more of a heat map. You put some sort of scale of 1 through 10, essentially, of difficulty on a session. And I think we're going to do this or talk about it for Dayton's WordCamp next year. But basically, a session is going to be heat mapped from green to red. And, we're not going to have these tracks. We're not going to have defined tracks of beginner, developer, power user. It's going to be, this is a 6 on there. And you can kind of decide, am I quite to that level yet? That makes sense?
Yeah, I think it does. That's weird.
The thing that comes to mind with that is that by saying, like, let's say this is, it's a 10, it's, how to dig in and, totally, like, hack apart, how something is working under the hood. It's a very heavy developer topic. What if something's a 10, but it's not development, it's, super advanced Google Analytics, for instance? Could definitely be a good, interesting talk, and Nate, you should do that. I'm not saying you're the only person who can talk about analytics, but
no, not at all.
Nate's the only one that really cares about analytics. So.
That's not true. I have an office full of people that I'm going to see on Tuesday who will disagree with you on that. But the idea of a 10 being, is that based on difficulty for development? Is it difficulty for marketing? Is it difficulty from a content end? I think that's kind of a, outside of just, this is beginner, this is, advanced, you have that, this is in this kind of focus area, and that's where the track kind of comes in. So I don't know if doing away with the tracks would necessarily help, unless you're adding some sort of taxonomy to it, outside of, you like my little use of taxonomy?
I do. That was good.
But adding, some way for people to understand, like, what am I kind of getting into? What's the general realm that I'm entering when I go into this talk? Because I think that's really important when helping people decide what they're doing. So rather than, and let me play devil's advocate here, rather than doing away with tracks, what if it was really enforced, not just at, like, the opening notes, but maybe it's, it could just be a sign that says, like, hey, if this is too easy or too hard, here's other talks going on.
Right.
Here are other talks. Let me properly pluralize that, because English, right? But I think the subject matter is as important when deciding what session is the best use of your hour as the difficulty level.
No, I think that's a great point, Steve, and it's one that I know I'm going to take into serious consideration. It's just one of those things where it's, and I think you nailed it a little bit earlier, where it's more of a suggestion. It's to guide attendees. It's to guide speakers, but at the same time, we've all been in talks that we're listening to them, and we're, maybe developer, power user, whatever, and we're going, after 5 minutes, I should get up and leave. 10 minutes, I really need to get up and leave. And then 30 minutes in, you're kicking yourself in your butt going, I really should have just left, and now I just wasted a whole session. So I think it goes back to the speaker needs to be paired with the right attendees. And I think that goes back to the organizers and just that whole encompassing factor of everybody kind of needs to work together and say, how deep is your talk on Google Analytics? How deep is your talk on advanced custom fields or creating a plugin? How advanced are you going to go? And I think, Brian, you're going on the right track with the difficulty level, but I think, Steve, you're going with it too, saying on what scale, because it can vary from different person to person. So both great points.
Yeah, maybe the ultimate solution is, a combination of both. Maybe it's because personally, I don't think what we have currently works.
No.
I don't believe that it's there. I don't believe it's very clear to people. It's clear to us. We're developers. We understand it. We've all been to WordCamps. But look at the first-time WordCamp attendees. It may not be fully clear to them. So it's got to change. There's got to be something better.
We're also battling one of the most difficult things, and the more conferences you attend, the more you realize this. And it doesn't matter if it's the world's smallest WordCamp or if it's something giant like South by Southwest or CodeMash coming up this January. Yeah, I'm just gonna plug everything. But I'm going to use CodeMash for an example here.
Okay.
I think this year they have 235 sessions or something. The call for speakers just ended, but it's like, this is a heavy conference, a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And, I've been the last 2 years, and it's very, you have to make tough choices of, well, do I want to, hit that talk about testing, or do I want to go see, someone building like a robot with an Arduino to deliver Oreos? That was actually a thing. Rob Tarr of Sparkbox built an Oreo delivering
Why am I not
robot.
surprised?
It was really cool. But the more conferences you go, the more you realize, like, it ends up this very tough choice of, there's so much going on at one time, and you only have so many slots. And if you try to run between, you're not going to catch the whole talk. You're not going to get the context you need. So it's kind of the bigger a conference gets, the more difficult it can be on attendees, and that's kind of one of those sad truths about these conferences. It could be like, I want to go see that person because I met them once and I want to support them. But at the same time, that talk sounds like it could advance my career, and that third talk over there, it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. All right, that went into a South by Southwest example. But I got to see Neil deGrasse Tyson, so
I might have to go to this CodeMash now.
Yeah, he wasn't at CodeMash, but that was South by. But yeah, CodeMash that's a cool conference. Anyway, I'm getting off track here, but we as organizers and people who speak at WordCamps and attend WordCamps, and we all admitted our love of WordCamps not 30 minutes ago. What we can do is help these people who are maybe attending their first WordCamp, or they don't have the confidence, to say, like, yeah, I could totally hit that power user track. The ones who are thinking like, well, because I've only been doing this 6 months or something, and maybe they've done really well, but because in their mind, well, it's only 6 months, and it was really easy, because that's what WordPress is great at doing, making things very easy. You get people who feel like, I don't deserve to call myself a power user or a developer because I don't really know what I'm doing, and no one knows what they're doing. Andrew Nason doesn't know what he's doing. We're all in this together, and we're all constantly learning. So what we need to do as people who have been through this and been doing it longer is help empower the people who haven't, and encourage them, like, hey, this one might be a little below you. You can totally go to something else. Don't feel like you have to sit here because you're a quote-unquote beginner, because we were all beginners at some point, and the way we learned was by challenging ourselves and exploring something new. End of rant.
It's very true.
No, and I think, but at the same time, it goes back to, I think, speakers, I think just the whole presentation, that when you go to these events beforehand, you see the speaker list, you see the schedule, I think it just needs to be laid out better. So, like you said, oh, I want to support them, oh, this is going to help my career, and this is going to help me understand things better, or, God, he's a great speaker, she's awesome. But until it's actually laid out better for the attendee to say, where am I going to get the most out of it? I think it's a flawed setup right now. Not to say that it can't grow, and I think some are expanding. They're trying different things. They're adding, like say, that marketing track. A lot of WordCamps are doing that Sunday developers hangout type deal. So it's one of those things where it's developing. It's currently growing into something. I have yet to find out what it is, but I'm excited to see.
Let's see, what else is there?
Well, since we're giving shout-outs, I pulled up Code Mash. That's January 6th through 9, 2015, in Sandusky, Ohio. And for those 2 or 3 watching, that's codemash.org. Apparently, it's really awesome, and it's the first time I've ever heard of it. So.
Oh yeah, it's terrific. Tickets sell out like super quick. Follow them on Twitter @CodeMash. It's the kind of thing where it's like they'll announce when tickets are going on sale a week ahead of time or whatever, and if you don't get it within like the 5 minutes, and book your hotel that day because you want to stay at Kalahari. It's this big indoor water park. The first year I was up there, I stayed like down the street at a different hotel, and they had a shuttle, so it wasn't a big deal. But at the same time, when it's a giant developer party with water park, beer, bacon. There's a bacon bar.
What?
Which is
I'm definitely going.
Yeah.
Okay, put that down for like Dayton WordCamp bacon bar.
Please do, because it's fantastic.
I like that idea. But yeah, I going kind of full circle. I think there is place for the WordCamps and the off-brand. But I think there needs to be there might be some more give and take, maybe from the central to say, hey, we got some great developers, we got great power users, but none of them in our area want to talk. They don't want to present at our WordCamp, so we have to go outside of that realm, that 70-30. And so I think there needs to be some give on that. And I think it should be a case-by-case basis. Dayton, Columbus, North Canton, Ann Arbor, Chicago. I don't think they have a problem getting the talent, but I know there's a lot of problems, especially, overseas, over in Europe. They're, the smaller camps are trying to, not be lumped into WordCamp Europe. They want to your WordCamp Argentina, Saudi Arabia, down the line. So it's one of those things where I think there needs to be some give and take on it. Or not. I think there is. I think there should be.
I think it makes sense. There's a lot of strength behind the WordCamp brand, and it is the canonical, WordPress conference. But I think at the same time, people need to feel free to, if they want to take on that burden and not have, WordCamp Central kind of holding their hands through it. As long as the goal is, hey, we want to, it can only help increase awareness of WordPress as a platform. We definitely, you don't want to see someone masquerading as a WordPress-centric conference that's basically like, and here are all the reasons you should be using Joomla instead.
Turn off the camera.
If you weren't sick before, you're sick now.
Oh, God.
No, but you want to make sure that people aren't, trolling the WordPress community with the conference. But at the same time, I think people who who got in it just to do that, like that's really going out of your way to troll somebody, to organize an entire conference around like, oh, surprise, we're not actually pro WordPress at all.
Or WordPress is something to the side. It's not about WordPress. It's about everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there are some conferences that there's definitely a lot of WordPress content, but it's not a WordPress conference. Not to do another plug, but PHP World, organized by PHP Architect. It's coming up this November in Washington, D.C. Don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of speaking. But, you know, they're going to do a panel.
A big deal here, you know.
Kind of a big deal. No, but like they're going to do a panel with some of these leaders of the major PHP open source platforms. So Andrew Nason's going to be on it. Taylor Otwell, the lead developer of Laravel, is going to be there, as well as, and I should know the names, but you know, representatives of Magento and Drupal and I believe Joomla, and it's. I hope I'm not missing anyone.
That's 2 strikes, Steve.
You got one more.
Joomla.
And you're out.
There. But the you know, they're doing a panel, and it's about like, you know, hey, look, we're all in this PHP world. See what I did there? Together. So, you know, like the security release that came out a few weeks ago, that was, you know, the Drupal team and the WordPress team they worked together, and they released it at the same time, and that was a cool, you know, we can pick our preferences on, you know, platforms and the communities that we like, and but at the end of the day, like if WordPress does something really well and Drupal developers go, hey, we really like that, but you know, maybe Drupal works better for what we're doing, or we're, you know, more comfortable with Drupal, but the WordPress people had really great ideas, they can try to implement that, and then it works the other way too. I mean, you get where WordPress started off much more focused on blogging, you know, and people were like, well, WordPress can't be a CMS. WordPress was like, no, we can totally be a CMS, and they started doing a lot more to make it easy to power, you know, like entire sites that aren't blogs at all off of WordPress, whereas then Drupal's like, oh, you know, people are like, you don't want to use Drupal for blogging, and Drupal went, oh, we should probably make it easier for people to build blogs because blogs are really popular, partly thanks to WordPress. So it's outside of just the general WordPress community. There's the PHP community and the programming community beyond that. You get Rubyists or .NET, or those poor people still doing Java, and this is where Java developers just burn me at the stake. But no, the idea is that it doesn't matter what language we're writing in or what platform we're using. We're developers and citizens of the web. We're people who are writing software and, you know, building sites and putting content out there for the world to consume. So we can get up on, you know, semantics and petty differences between platforms, and you can give me 3 strikes for saying Joomla. I was kind of hoping that after I said it 3 times, like, Joomla would just appear, like Beetlejuice.
Oh, God.
But
you're pushing your luck, Steve.
This is my last time on the podcast, clearly. No, but it's kind of the whole world picture sort of thing. So anything that we can do, you know, even if, say, someone stumbles into a WordCamp because their friend is speaking, or, you know, someone's like, oh, you should probably go to this, and they go, okay, that's a good use of, you know, 20, 40, whatever bucks, and they go, okay, I don't like WordPress, but the programming stuff, like that, I get that, and it's really cool, and, you know, I want to go build, like, major e-commerce sites because I love shopping online. And they go into like maybe they seek out a Magento users group because someone made some backhanded comment about Magento just as an aside in the hallway, and they're like, what's Magento? I've never heard of that. But hey, e-commerce, awesome, I'll go do that. You know, could we, as if we were just focused on WordPress, could we say, you know, well, really, you should be using Shop or WooCommerce or, you know, any of those? And it, you know, but it's empowering people to look at the world around them and see that, you know, I can make a difference. And I think that's kind of been one of the underlying missions of WordPress as a platform. Put your content out there and make it as easy as possible for people to publish. But it's also been an important thing just for open source in general. So anyone who can get out there and get exposure to, even if it's not the exact thing that they want to be working on, but they kind of go, oh, I can apply this to, I've taken stuff from Columbus Ruby Brigade, which is a strictly Ruby meetup here in town, and gone, oh, I could do that in Laravel. Totally different languages, totally different frameworks, but it's that big picture, and that's what I think programming is all about. And the best programmers are the ones who can, and beyond programming, just the best people are the ones who can, step outside the comfort zone and learn something new and take that back and adapt it and then hopefully teach someone else.
Wow.
Sorry, now rant over.
You're a little bit high on the camera. Can you step off that soapbox a little bit? No, but you made excellent points, Steve, and I think you're dead on. We shouldn't be caught up in the J word, the Drupal, the Magento.
Did you really just say the J word? Joomla.
No. History tells me that I started with Joomla, and that's how I got into WordPress. So if it wasn't for Joomla, I would never be where I am today. So of course, then again, if I got into WordPress sooner, I'd probably be doing a lot better. But whatever. But it does. It goes back to, if we can say, stop putting up the brands, the Joomlas, the Drupals, the Magento, all this stuff, and going, well, what are you working on? Let's try to find the best platform for you, the user, the developer, the programmer, for the world. Because, online, it's supposed to be free. Everybody needs to be able to be open source. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of these CMSs, WordPress, I think leading the charge was just going, gates are down, everybody welcome. Come on in. Let's make it a better home.
Yep, definitely.
The warm fuzzies I was talking about earlier? The warm fuzzies, that's right now. That's right here in my heart.
Yeah. All right. That's all I got on that. But that's all I got to say about that.
I think that's what we've got too. So. And
there was the obligatory Forrest Gump reference.
Yes.
Every podcast needs one.
Exactly.
WordPress is like a box of chocolates.
Diane.
So yeah, I think that's our show for the night.
And hopefully in 2 weeks I'll feel a lot better and I won't be dead, and we can talk on another topic, WordPress focused a little bit. See what's maybe 4.0 will drop by then. Who knows?
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
We might bring Steve back on. It's
Joomla.
He might be on a 2-week suspension, but
God, you're just pushing your luck now, man.
Yeah. I got cocky. You clapped for me, and then the ego just.
God.
So,
right.
Steve, where can we find you?
I blog at stevegrunwell.com. That's GRUNWELL. I'm also on the Twitter at Steve Grunwell.
The Twitter.
Great. And Nate?
Just search Nathan Driver. You're going to find me. I do SEO. You're going to get me one way or another. Also want to give a shout out to Hooker.io. It's a great place for WordPress information. Or if you think the codex is good, this is going to blow your freaking mind, people. So
it's true. It's true. I use it every time I work on a site.
Got to give a shout out.
Yep.
Okay, and Brian?
I'm Brian. You can find me on Twitter, bredder, down there underneath my my awesome picture here. And if you search me on like Nathan, you might find me, or you might find the Stanford swimmer. So take your pick. I am not a Stanford swimmer, so pick the other one.
It's good to know.
So yeah, that's WP Decoded this week. Hope to see you in a couple weeks. Follow us on WP_Decoded on Twitter or plus WP Decoded on Google Plus. See you
That's
next time.
Twitter. Bye bye.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.